Hello there, and thanks once again for joining us on your number one TV show, Game Plan. Yes, the program where we talk about nothing else but your world's most beautiful game. I'm Charles, CNN Mabika, and before we go any further, of course, I'm always urging you, these days the temperatures are getting lower and lower and lower. So make sure the little ones are warm and cozy, right? Maybe don't worry about yourself, worry about the little ones. We like to see them warm and cozy. Right, what are we talking about this week? Well, you know what? We have a very special guest. It's the first time that he's been on Game Plan. And let's say hello to the president of the Zimbabwe Football Association, Moil Maguizi. We call him NQ. It's very nice of you to join us, Mr. President of Zifa. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, CNN. It's my pleasure to be here, and good evening, viewers.
Right. Okay. Before we go any further, we'd like to pass our sincerest condolences. We join Zifa and the football fraternity, the whole team here from Game Plan joins Zifa and the whole football fraternity in passing our sincerest condolences to the family of the young gritty midfielder we called BB, Brian Banda, who perished in a car accident, injuries received following a car accident over the weekend. May his soul rest in peace. And NQ, very
sad situation, CNN, and of course our sincere condolences to the family. He's being buried tomorrow, and I would like to encourage those in the football family to support the program. It's Den Blawayo, and I'm hoping I will be there as well. Very sad situation, and we can only leave it in the hands of God.
That's right.
It's not anything that we expected.
That's right.
He was still at his prime. Very, very sad.
That's right. Former FC Platinum captain and a Warriors midfielder, gritty BB. Rest in peace. What we've got is a tribute to the very exciting, gritty midfielder we all called BB, Brian Banda. Yes, he will be laid to rest in Bulawayo tomorrow. And boy, oh boy, we will miss him. Right. The Zifa president is in the house. Moil Maguizi, we call him NQ, like I said. All right. Let me start just briefly. Who is Moil Maguizi? I'll ask you. I'm asking you that because the other day, there were some people who were arguing. I think there was 4 on this side and 4 on this, and they stopped me in the street. And one set were saying, this is the guy who used to play as a midfielder for Zimbabwe Saints. And the other set were saying, no. No, he used to play for Njube Sundown. So, who is Moil Maguizi?
Thank you very much, CNN. Moil Maguizi is 46-year-old Zimbabwean. Of course, my young life started off in Gokwe, in the rural areas, where we're herding cattle. And at some point, I then came into Harare, went to a primary school in Harare called Mofu in Highfield, Kuma W. That's where I spent most of my time. We used to play football with friends. We had one number 5 during our time, Mainzi Chamu, who was a good friend. I played for Mofu senior team, and it was a good time. And then from there, I then went, of course, for my high school.
Were you a midfielder, goalkeeper, striker?
I wanted to be a striker. I wanted to be a striker when at a senior level, but I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to make it into Zimbabwe Black Aces. That was the team that we used to hang out with at the Zimbabwe grounds and of course at Kwanzura. During the times of Mugay, those are the days when we would go watch them play. Colin Mahlangu, those are the guys that would inspire us. I mean, he was a big brother, Colin. And during his days, I think he was very good. I'm sure if you remember, as a winger, he was inspirational. But we spent most of our time at Zimbabwe grounds, playing football, going to CJ Hall to watch films by Mdara Mandevu, and then go to Zimbabwe grounds to play, and then watch the match at Gwanzura. But of course, sometimes we then go to Rufaro. I think it was one of the places that would go to, supporting at that time. Dynamos and Highlanders playing in Rufaro, it always used to be good, and would listen to you and would imagine. And then those days, I think, even as we grew up, I think in Goko in 1987, Dynamos lost to Caps. 2 of my brothers used to support, one was supporting Caps, the other one was supporting Dynamos. My older brother, Eliphas, used to support Dynamos. And he had a People's Radio, a small radio. And the younger brother, who's Ed Moore, who's currently in Australia, was supporting Caps. So Caps won that match. If you remember the 7-0. The 7-0
the
one.
Africa Day Trophy semi-final.
Yes, and my older brother was so upset that he took his radio away. For the next few weeks, no one was listening to the radio, and by that time, we were listening to you commenting. So we grew up, I think, of course, in this football ecosystem. Listening to Evans Bambara as well, as always yourself. Then high school, I went, of course, then did my Form 1, Form 6, Prince Edward School, with the likes of Amana Gumunyu, other guys that I was with in school at that time. We had Spencer Banda, we had Alan Jensen, we had Ndiraya. We were in the same stream, by the way. And during those days, of course, those guys were good. Another guy from Highfield, whom I'd grown up with, his name was Shepard Sargent. He's late now. And he used to play for the first team as well. I never made it to the first team at Z1. But of course, we were a sporting school. And of course, chose to be more administrative in organizing events and organizing things during my time.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to cut you there because we've got a lot to explore.
Sure.
But basically, I think you spelled it out, a football person. Although he never really, made it professionally.
No, never made it professionally.
Before I move to another topic, which is one of the many topics I'm going to talk about, which team were you supporting as you were growing up, and which team were you supporting?
So in my family, there were 2 teams which were prominent. My father was Highlanders.
Your father was Highlanders?
Yeah. My big brother was Dynamos. My other younger brother was Caps. So those are the 3 main teams. So being young, you would appease the one who would have taken you to the ground.
All right. So
you'd go and appease
the big 3, Dynamos, Highlanders, Caps.
Yeah, they were all
Okay,
my father was very clear with Highlanders.
Okay, right. Okay, so you heard the big 3. This is why, yes, I did say the other day that if Dynamos, Caps, and Highlanders, one of them gets relegated, that's me. I'm quitting football. I'm sticking to that. Right. Okay. Thank you. You and your executive sworn in or voted into office on the 25th of January. And you've now about approximately 150 days in office, right? It's a self-appraisal. How would you rate your performance, yourself and your executive board, on a sliding scale of 1 to 10?
I think let me give the context of the rating. One of the things that's been happening within the association is that there's a lot of heavy lifting that's taking place. And I can tell you, CNN, that the board members, the executive committee members, have been giving their all. There is 100% commitment. We've held meetings sometimes to midnight, where we are trying to address issues that have often, challenged the growth of football in Zimbabwe. We've often met at odd times where people are sacrificing even their work to come and engage and help the association to make sure that we get things to work properly. So in terms of the effort that has been put by everyone in the EXCO at the moment, it can be anything like 8/10, even to 9/10.
Wow.
The effort, I can not ask anything more of the executive committee members in as far as commitment is concerned. You pick up a phone right now, you call an executive committee member for their assistance in respect to anything Zifa, they will be there. Committee members take off days from work, sometimes to travel on assignments at short notice. So there is full commitment, and it's evident. Yes, it's like you are turning a big flywheel. Sometimes the motion takes much longer to build the momentum. It takes much longer because it's a heavy thing. There's a lot of heavy lifting. But in terms of the effort, the availability, and the commitment to seeing the transformation within Zifa, 8/10 easily. Yes.
Okay. That's quite a high mark. I don't know, do you agree? Well, you are the owners of the game. You gauge it. 150 days they have been in office, and the Zifa president here reckons, for now, 8/10. Do you agree? Well, we'll hear you. We know. You are already discussing it, right? And you've talked about... Or should I say, going through your manifesto the other day just before the elections.
Yes.
I'm not going to go into that. And what out of your manifesto, and as you try to do to get things done, what has been, in your view, the biggest challenge that we are facing here in Zimbabwe?
I think the biggest challenge is the issue of mindset. It's a mindset that is informed maybe by a culture where football is not treated like a business. Football is treated as a pastime. And as a consequence, the approach is evident even when sponsors are dealing with football. They think it's a pastime thing, and as a result, we cannot really grow the ecosystem to its full capacity. Meetings for football, they're relegated to a weekend when everybody's free. It's not core business. It's a by the way kind of activity. So our mindset as a nation needs to change so that we treat football as an industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Globally, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's up to us as Zimbabweans to take the necessary steps to transform that. And that is what these executives are trying to work on. So that we change our mindsets, so that we regard football as a serious place.
So how do you, as you head this national association, remedy that? How do you change the mindset that you've just talked to us about?
So there's a number of factors that have an impact on changing a culture. So firstly, we need to look at our institution. Us as an institution, the one who are administering the association, are we building the confidence? Because they say culture is the behavior of the elders. So if the executive committee are the elders of football within Zimbabwe, their behavior informs how everybody else will behave in as far as football is concerned. So we are trying to build a strong institution that inspires confidence and that instills the correct culture right across the nation. But that process is heavy lifting. Because remember, you're trying to change somebody who's probably been doing something for 50 years, sometimes 30 years, certain behavior. Now you're saying, no. we can actually organize ourselves so that we can be a convincing institution that convinces corporates to come on board, that convinces the government to come on board and put funding. I'll tell you what, in Europe, in Germany, $300 million is put into sport. And the greater chunk of that money is for football. 300 million euros is put into football. Because they have understood that this is a very serious component of the nation building. Here, they find it difficult, I think, the politicians, to put 300 million. Perhaps, of course, maybe we may not be as big as an economy like Germany, but even to put a lot of money, because they're not sure whether we are responsible enough as an association.
But obviously, let me butt in there, Mr. President. Obviously, you cannot expect the government to put, I'm not talking about the figures, but the government has got other more important priorities than football. So how do you then source for sponsorship yourselves as you try to change this mindset as well? And if I can shorten the question, how far have you gone in trying to achieve this mindset?
Thank you very much. So one of the things that we started to do was the issue of audit on the skills and the HR, just to do our audit, introspection, to see what skills do we have within the association. Do the skills we have in a position to deliver what's expected in a vibrant football association? So we have done the skills audit. We are finalizing the outcome in the following week so that we realign where there's gaps, we fill them up, so that the vehicle that is driving football growth in Zimbabwe is an efficient vehicle. Whatever is required to be delivered by the association can be delivered by the experts that are working within the association. I think that's one of the first things we have done. The other thing that we have done is that we have done an audit in terms of our infrastructure. We've done an audit in terms of our areas of the grassroots, in terms of understanding who's doing what and where. We've been communicating, of course, with all our committee members right across the country, and of course members of the Congress, so that we have a better understanding of what is happening in Mausekwa, what is happening in Gokwe. We need to understand what is happening as far as football is concerned. And we have seen all those gaps. So right now, with all that information, we start the process of implementing changes. One of the things that we are looking at as well, football, by and large, globally, is driven by volunteers. We are introducing a volunteer program where people can be registered as volunteers, football volunteers, and they get an ID from Zifa, and they can participate in various activities. And by participating in those activities, they earn points, like any loyalty program that we can run. But the idea of having volunteers is to make sure that we create a culture within Zimbabwe where people can contribute consistently towards the growth of football.
Okay, how long is this going to take? Because you've come in on an initial 4-5 year. Your term is 4 years. How long will that take?
Our desire is that the first.
I'll tell you what. Yes. Yes, as you think more about giving me that answer. Yes, I know you're not going away. Yes, he is here in the hot seat at last. First time on Game Plan, the president of Zifa, Moil Maguizi, NQ, we call him. We're just going away for a teeny-weeny bit. When we come back, he'll be telling us, or telling you, the owners of the game, how long is this going to take, what he has been talking about, changing your mindset. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Yes, it is game plan, and we've got the Zifa president, Moil Maguizi, talking to you, the owners of the game. Before we went away, I asked him how long that all this trying to change the mindset of the culture here in Zimbabwe and so on and so on. He's got an initial tenure of 4 years. How long is this going to take?
So, CNN, as you may be aware, changing a culture is not a sprint. I think it's pretty much a marathon. There is a lot of things that need to be put in place. For instance, we need to make sure that the institution itself is functioning well. It is a correct culture. That culture then begins to permeate to all the regions, permeates to all the provinces, permeates to all the area zones, because we've created that culture, and it's a process. And this process, of course, involves capacity building. Just last week, we're going around the country engaging women, working on the women's strategy. You know, you're holding those workshops for referees, workshops for players, workshops for team managers, so that the outlook of every stakeholder within football begins to see the bigger picture. But of course, to have all these workshops, you need resources to be able to achieve that. And we have, of course, a formula that we are working on. We will not be able to do it all at once, but as I'm saying, it's sort of a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know, one step at a time, we are building a strong foundation. And I'm convinced that within another 6 months, we should be far from where we are right now.
Okay. It brings me now to how is the financial situation at Zifa? Have you got the capital? How is the financial situation?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, and I think I would love all Zimbabweans, football-loving Zimbabweans, to understand the structure of how of our financial models, or the structure of how Zifa is funded. We were, of course, under a ban for a bit of time, and then, of course, the normalization committee came in, and of course, we are still under restricted funding. So in terms of funds that are supposed to come yet to Zifa, they haven't yet come since the executive committee went into office.
Nothing has come from FIFA.
We haven't received the allocation. Yeah. But of course, we have done the submissions of the audited financials, and we are hoping that once they've been received, of course, everything will fall into place. But
how much are you expecting for that first?
Yeah. So FIFA annually, let me just break it down. FIFA annually provides a budget to every member association of 1,250,000. This is for operational costs to cover, your expenses for running the association. Now that's 1,250,000. Then you have CAF. CAF also give an additional amount of about $250,000, right? So those are the two amounts which come in, which make about 1.5 million a year, which come to a member association. This is where everything should happen. A lot of the association then augment their funding by getting more resources from corporates who contribute, government can contribute, and of course the collections that are made from affiliates who are paying into the association. So this is how the whole model works. But currently, in the absence of the money from FIFA having come through, you survive on the portion that comes from the affiliates, perhaps a portion which comes from the gate takings that are shared from the PSL. And of course, when they sponsors, you get money from the sponsors. But as you may be aware, Zifa previously has not had many sponsors. So we are trying to build the correct foundation so that we can have more sponsors coming along. So as it stands, our financial situation is not good. It's not a pretty one.
Right. After the elections, after you won, I think just before, the entrepreneur, Zimbabwe business person, Wicknell Chivayo, promised that he would give Zifa 10 million US dollars. And word is that you received that money. Can you update us on that, the 10 million?
Yeah, I wish I'd received that money. I'm sure that it would make a lot of a difference for our football in Zimbabwe. We definitely need resources.
You haven't received?
No, we have not received the money. But of course, we are very hopeful that we can get partners that can come and work with us and, of course, help us achieve our ambitions in terms of growing football in Zimbabwe. The resources are definitely needed. The 1.2 million or the 1.5 million that we get as an allocation from CAF and FIFA is just enough to get us started. Giving you an example, just to host a match, because we don't have our own stadium in Zimbabwe, just to host a match like we did with Benin in South Africa, you're not spending anything less than 400,000 US dollars. Now, imagine if you have 1.5 million. It means when you host 4 matches, all that money is gone. And here I'm not talking about the salaries that are required. I'm not talking about the expenses to run the association. So there is need for money. So partners are required. We cannot do this alone. We definitely need partners. So if there is somebody who wants to come and partner the association, definitely we have all the necessary frameworks that can be put in place. The contracts can be signed. And when the money is received, it can be accounted for. And the progress that money would have influence would be able to be shown to the whole country, for the country to see that this is what Zifa is doing.
Nobody has come through at the moment. Is that what you're telling us? Nobody, the corporate world, nobody has come through to partner Zifa to say this is X amount of dollars.
So we have better brands that have partnered the association with the kids. We have.
I'm talking about the liquid cash, the liquid, No,
we've not received any liquid cash.
No liquid cash.
No liquid cash yet.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, I hope you are following us and hearing about the Zimbabwe situation in football coming right from the horse's mouth. The Zifa president, Moil Maguizi. Now I know what you want me to ask next, and that's where I'm going. I know you want to know about your number one team, hey? The Warriors. Of course, that's where I'm going next. Right. It's about 5 months to go to Morocco. What are the arrangements, the plans for our Warriors to give a good account of themselves? We had Michael Nees, I'm sure you're aware.
Yes.
I can tell you that NQ is a staunch admirer, a staunch follower of this show, Game Plan, just like you are. Yeah. And he talked about his wish was getting the Warriors to the next stage, from the group stage to the knockout stage. So what can the fans, the owners of the game, know about the plans? Or are there any as we prepare for Morocco?
Of course, CNN Derby, the plans have already started. I think one of the things we've already done, we took a trip to Europe with the coach, where he spent some time watching some of the potentials playing in their various teams in the EPL. I think that was one of the steps we took. We also signed a contract with the Moroccan FA, which contract now allowed us to go have our friendly matches during the last FIFA break. And we played 2 matches there. We played Burkina Faso and Niger, which was, I believe, a good experience. Additionally, we also sent another team, which is a first in Zimbabwe, where 2 teams are playing at the same time. We sent a team to Kosafa. And I know there was a lot of noise around that aspect.
Yeah. I was one of the noise makers.
No, but
I want you to know that.
The feedback is good, because we sometimes we get things correct, sometimes we miss, but it's always good to get feedback so that we can align and continue to move. As long as we're making progress, that's what's important. So we sent 2 teams at the same time during the last FIFA break, one in Morocco and another one in South Africa. This we were hoping would also allow the coach to see the potential in all our players. Currently, the coach, of course, has been going around. One of the things that, of course, we've encouraged the coach is to spend more time with the coaches in Zimbabwe, to go and see them, their training grounds, have more conversations with coaches because they know the players. And of course, Michael is very, very progressive and is very dynamic, and he's spending time. I'm sure those of you who follow for football, he's been spending time with the various teams. I think the other time he was at Caps United, and then of course he went to Dynamos, and I think recently he was at Scotland. But I think this routine is not going to change. I think it has to go to as many teams as possible.
Okay, I'm going to button there. I want to stay with the Warriors, and particularly with the trip that Michael Nees undertook to go to England.
Yes.
There have been some bit of skepticism from the critics, from your critics,
yes,
Zifa, you. And there have also been conspiracy theories that there was something in it for the Zifa Presidium and Executive Board by aligning with the Zifa bodies overseas. To spell it out more clearly, that there's a ploy to identify players in Europe and so on, and sell them, and some people can benefit so that the Zifa Presidium benefits on the side. I want you to think about that as you give me the answer of those conspiracy theories. Yes, you think about that as well. Think about what he's going to say if you want, because we're just going away, again, to give that teeny weeny bit to those who help us pay the rent here. We'll be right back. Yes, I knew you'd still be there. Why not? Because this is your number one TV show Game Plan. Right, before we went away for that teeny weeny bit, I had put across the question to Zifa President Moil Maguizi, who is our special guest this week, about the conspiracy theories behind Zifa sending Warriors head coach Michael Nees to Europe. The conspiracy theories, yes, as you heard me say, was it something more to make the extra buck for the Zifa Presidium and his board? Here he is.
Nothing could be further from the truth. But one thing that you learn when you get into football administration on a serious note is that there is a number of conspiracy theories that keep coming up. And what is important as leadership is, of course, to stay the course and be focused on the big picture. Now, when the decision to go to England for the coach to go and see the players was made, it was part of him looking at all the talent we have amongst all Zimbabweans. Our vision as Zifa, of course, is to make sure that we have the best of us representing us. Any Zimbabwean anywhere who's good at what they are at playing football can represent the country. That's the objective. And this is why you've seen that we've deployed 2 teams where the coach was inviting people to participate and allow him to choose the best amongst us. If we were so short-sighted and we are focusing only on the UK, then that'd be a big problem. That'd be a big problem for us as an association. But we're looking at that as a short-term plan, because we had realized that our grassroots was still very weak. But that is going to change. That is going to change. We need to have a vibrant league at every level, even from the constituency level, at district levels, at provincial level. We need to have vibrant leagues. We need to have Nash and NAF working closely with us to make sure that we identify talent. The TDS system must be implemented rigorously to make sure at any given point in time, CNN.
What is the TDS system? Some of the owners of the game might not know.
The technical development system is a system developed by FIFA, which seeks to develop players technically. It's headed by Arsene Wenger, former Arsenal coach, and he's been driving it at FIFA level. He's the head. And what we do with that system is that we go to the grassroots. It's pretty much developing the grassroots. in a scientific way. And this is what we are looking at doing. And of course, as we go into the future, we're making sure that we are revamping our grassroots. We implement programs as recommended by FIFA, working closely with all the stakeholders in the various regions, various provinces, various districts, various wards across the country. In a few months' time, or in a few years' time, CNN, you should be able to say, President, give us our first 11 at under 13. We should be able to give you our top 11 players at under 13. You can ask for our top 11 players. It should be able to give you.
Right.
We should not be saying every time there's a tournament, we are starting afresh. Yes, we must have elite, of course, schools whereby those with the most talent are then taken to. And those are the programs that we're working on. But before we get there, we have to build the foundation.
Okay.
And that's the process we are doing. And of course, right now we have AFCON coming up in December. The coach must go there with a strong team. The coach is committed to give the best results for Zimbabwe. And as an association, as an executive committee, we've said to ourselves, we must give the coach the maximum support. What do you need, coach? Is it friendly matches? We'll find resources. Though they may be difficult to put together, we'll find resources so that you can go to Morocco and play friendly matches and try out combinations and try out new players. You will go to South Africa, send in younger guys. There were young people there that were doing amazing things. You know, like Ngwenya and all those. They're doing amazing work. So those are all the things that we're saying we need to ensure that we give the maximum support. And we use different methodologies to ensure that we identify the best talent to represent Zimbabwe.
Right. I'm staying with the Warriors.
Yes.
Our next game is in September. Our next home game, that is.
Yes.
Because against Rwanda in the World Cup, right? And people want to know the National Sports Stadium. When will it be ready? Will they be able to rally behind the Warriors against Rwanda in September at the National Sports Stadium? When is it going to be ready?
You know, the National Sports Stadium, affectionately known as the Gomba.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of good memories there. It's a pity that we've not been able to play there. And of course, as you may be aware, as an association, it's obviously not our mandate. The stadium, of course, is run by the Ministry of Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture. And they have been working. Our job has been to obviously lobby and work closely and express our desire to see the stadium functional. That has been our desire. And of course, the minister has been, we've seen him aggressively working with, of course, the various parties, you know, driving the progress there. And we are desirous to make sure that come September, we are playing there. But of course, it's subject to all the works being completed. From the reports that we've seen, it seems the bucket seats, they've been installed, complete. The pitch, of course, needs to be fixed. It's in work in progress. So we need to have a hybrid pitch there. I've also been told that the gates, the turnstiles, there's one sample that has been put there and it's working well. There's a few others that need to be put in place. And of course, the toilets and the changing rooms needs to be fixed. And I believe that there's still enough time to get all those things done. But of course, we always direct this to the SRC and the ministry so that they, as the ones who are mandated to run that process, we continue to lobby with them to express our deep desire to play there because it means a lot to a lot of us as Zimbabweans.
So we'll just have to keep hoping, keep our fingers crossed that September, when we host the Wasps of Rwanda in a World Cup qualifier, we just have to keep our fingers crossed that the National Sports Stadium will be ready. Now, I just want to move away from the pitch. Well, still on the pitch, but I want to talk about referees.
Yes.
It is top flight referees. It is a burning, a sensitive problem that is just crept up week in, week out, match in, match out. We hear of matches being abandoned. The referees are being unfair and so on. And just recently, Zifa have gone on now. They've announced the suspension of 3 particular referees, Lafmo Mapanje, Grace Gimo, and Clarice Simango. And people are saying, okay, fine. These referees have been suspended, Zifa acting expeditiously, perhaps, but those fighting in the referees' corner are saying these people, these referees, are human. To err is human. Why can't Zifa at least maybe make a step to prevent the referees doing bad things? Why can't they go the way of South Africa and Botswana and acquire VAR equipment to make the job easier for referees? Can we expect Zifa to acquire VAR equipment?
Oh yeah. So there's been a lot of developments in that space. There is the VAR equipment, of course, which currently its pricing can be prohibitive, but there is that potential. We've already started having engagements with FIFA. We've already held.
How much does it cost? Just to butt in, how much does it cost?
So the
Mr.
equipment
President?
for VAR, you're looking at about between 250,000 to 400,000 to have a kit. But that kit does, of course, not include the cameras. The assumption is that the TV stations, such as ZTV, will provide the cameras, and then we link up with that equipment. And
ZBC TV.
ZBC TV.
ZBC TV.
Yeah, ZBC TV.
Yeah.
We can then link up with that equipment. So anything between 250 to 400,000, you can get a good piece of equipment that can be used for VAR. That is, of course, for one site. So if you have many sites, it means you're spending 250 each site, 250.
So that 10 million from Sir Wicknell comes through.
Oh, yeah.
You can get the 400,000 from there and install VAR equipment.
Absolutely, we could do that. But I think what is important is to note that we have already started having conversations with FIFA on that. And it's a program that can be started. Once we secure the resources, even as early as in 3 months' time, we can start having the training programs happening, because you have to train the TV staff, you have to train the referees as well, and it's a process. So if resources were available, we could even give a timeline to say in 6 months' time we'll be able to do it. But of course, there's a limitation of resources, so that plays a role. But there's a new development. FIFA is working on what they call Valite. That will do the same thing as VAR, but it's not as expensive as the current VAR. And I think the projection is that by beginning of 2026, there will be Valite. Maybe that one will cost much less. I've not gotten the figures yet, but it should be able to make it much easier.
How does that work?
It's similar to VAR, but it's not very expensive. It's similar, but the equipment that is being used there is not very expensive to the current VAR that they use in Europe. So this one is meant to help upcoming, emerging economies such as in Zimbabwe, of course, where the economics, play a significant part. So that is the part. But I think one thing that I think I should mention is that the executive committee, of course, has come into place as of January. And one of the things which is key is, of course, building integrity around the game. And whenever two teams play, you always notice that there is different opinions. When Dynamos plays Caps, there's people who support Caps, there's people who support Dynamos. They will have different views. And it happens even in Europe. Even right now at the Club World Cup, you could see that there's always issues. And it's not an anomaly for people to have different views when it comes to football, but it's important that we maintain the integrity of the game. And I think it's one of the core issues at Zifa that we are looking at closely to say, how do we become better? I think a lot of feedback has been coming regarding the referees, and we are saying we need to continuously improve. And remember, we are trying to deal with a culture that has been there for more than 20, 30 years, within the refereeing space. And we are saying we need to improve. How do we do this? We're already talking to CAF. Programs.
You mean sometimes biased refereeing? Is that what you're talking about?
You have people, they are human beings. There is a code of conduct that we have put in place, which all referees are aware of. And
it suddenly seems to have just come abruptly, because if you don't have to go very far. You get guys like Wilfred Mukuna, Felix Tangawarima, Anthony Mandiwanza, Tendai Bwanya, and it looks like this has just abruptly come in.
I think
come
over the
through.
past 20 years, I think there's been a lot of shaking has happened within our football. I think from 2013, a lot of things were happening. Even prior to that, I think there was a time when I think we had difficult challenges, I think economically, and they affected the amount of football that was being played. And then we had COVID come in as well. It affected what was happening. And of course, it's strained in terms of the quality of our refereeing over time. But now, we need to address that, and we're addressing that. And it's a process. As I've said, it's not a sprint. We have to address gradually. Sometimes you do, you put certain steps in place, and you realize that there is a few things that needs to be adjusted, and you keep adjusting until you get the formula correct. But we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Already we are talking to CAF. There are certain programs that we're going to put in place in making sure that our referees, we have the most up-to-date education, or rather training in respect of what's expected internationally. The idea is most of our referees should be considered for CAF assignments. They should be considered for FIFA assignments. That's what we desire. And it's a journey, it's a process. And my desire is that we should end up with a flawless refereeing body, of course, you have here and there, but we want generally, by and large, a good ecosystems of referees that deliver and make our fans happy.
NQ, let's move on now to the women's game. The girl child has not really been treated well in Zimbabwe football. What is your vision, and what is your executive board, as you lead it, planning to do about bettering the life of the girl child?
Absolutely. And interestingly, FIFA has a robust program of supporting women football. And as an association, we've actually embraced that program. One of the things that we have done, or just over the past week, we're working with the various stakeholders across the regions in as far as putting together a strategy for women football. We didn't want to run ahead and put a strategy for women football in the absence of the stakeholders that are going to be driving the growth we desire to see in football for women. So we brought in Tubelihle. She's a FIFA expert on women football. She was part of the team. Then also had FIFA coaching instructor, Dominic Nyonzima from Burundi. They spent the whole week going around the country speaking to the stakeholders, putting together the document. In another 4 weeks, we should have finalized that the strategy document. That document will be submitted to FIFA. And that becomes the template by which FIFA will measure us as an executive in as far as women football development is concerned. But what are the key things that we're looking at? We're looking at the grassroots programs for the women. So we got feedback from the stakeholders in as far as what they desire to see in the grassroots. Infrastructure. What is the desired infrastructure for women? Currently, we've had situations where women teams have been playing in pitches that you would not let your child go and play in. And we are addressing that. We need to address that. So we have put that into our strategy. What is our approach? And we are looking at making sure that there is adequate infrastructure to cater for our women as well as they play. We are also looking at the idea to make sure that maybe if you remember when our women went to Angola and went to play at the AFCON, play in South Africa, we are making sure that even their allowances, they get rewards which are competitive. Even their kitting, even their travel. It's a thing of the past to be sending women for matches to South Africa on a bus. So we need to make sure that the standards that are given to the boy child are also given to the girl child.
I'd like to move on. I think you've made that quite clear. I'd like to move on and talk about development junior football and vis-a-vis club licensing. How are you moving in that direction? Because we see a lot of flaws as far as club licensing is concerned.
Yeah, there is a lot of things that we need to address, especially on club licensing. I think previously as an association we've been very weak on policing issues of club licensing. Very, very weak. In other countries, you hear that there is conditions they put in place. For instance, they'll say we need at least a minimum of 5 players that are under 18. It becomes a part of the condition of club licensing. But here, a lot of things we are saying, things are tough. Maybe out of COVID and out of the ban, maybe things were tough. But I think as we go into 2026, I think as an association, we're going to have a sit down with all the clubs and say, colleagues, all the governors say, this is where we want to go. If we are going to be viewed as a professional institution to compete globally with other associations, then we have to take ourselves seriously. We have to take ourselves seriously. So issues of club licensing are pertinent. We have our committee that is working closely with us to making sure that we put the framework, it's approved by the Congress, and then we implement it. But there is a number of ideas. Some of them are, for instance, having a junior teams at all levels. It's going to be part of a critical issue on club licensing. Right. And as the executive, we're going to table it. Okay. For those teams, maybe we can give them an option to say, perhaps maybe you can't afford yet, but you can adopt an academy. There's lots of academies across the country. Okay. So if you don't have a junior teams, you can have academies that you work with and you affiliate with, and when we request for that, you provide that as evidence.
Okay, I want to move on.
Sure.
NQ, I want to move on now. I want to talk about first, you recently announced that Zifa is planning to increase the teams of the Premier Soccer League from 18 to 20 from next season. How does that entail? Because people already are saying, is it because the Dynamos might get relegated? Is this why Zifa now? And if that happens, how is it going? Are we still going to have 4 teams relegated from the Premiership? And what is there? Already tongues are wagging.
Thank you, CNN, for that. I think it's important that I bring clarity to the issue.
Yeah.
This is a discussion, or perhaps I spoke about this in February, before the league had even started, to say perhaps we should consider increasing the number of teams. Perhaps we should consider having a national championship league. But those decisions are not made by one person. We have teams that we are working with in terms they do the necessary investigation to assess as to why do we have the 4 regions in the first place. What was the reason why we have this in place? We must assess that and make a decision which is informed to say, now if we are going to have a national Division 1, do we have the capacity? Do we have the justification to move away from what was there to what is here, what we want to see in the future? So all those things need to be analyzed. But just for your clarity, I mean, we discussed this when I was at the city of Harare with the mayor. It was before the season had started. And no team had played a single match.
All right.
Yeah. So, but it was just a thought to say, perhaps it would be good if we align how our league is structured, especially the PSL. We align and copy, of course, what is happening elsewhere. You know, even the calendar, there was that thought as well to say, perhaps maybe it would be beneficial to our football ecosystem if we align with what's happening to other regions. For instance, South Africa, they've aligned with Europe, because then the FIFA calendars breaks makes it easier for us to play friendlies and all that. So those are all issues that are still under discussion, no finality yet.
All right.
Because remember, the Congress must review these proposals and possibly or definitely vote them in if they believe those are good ideas. But for now, as the leadership, our responsibility is to throw ideas out there so that people can discuss and debate them, and we get the best that will best suit our association, and of course allow us to develop in the manner we decide to develop.
That's right. Okay, that has been clarified, right? That has been, it's just a thought that he had and nothing. He's still going to go to Congress. And so as far as you're concerned, there's still 4 teams to be relegated. And, well, I hope it's not going to be Dynamos or Caps or Highlanders. Otherwise, I'm out of football. Right, so 4 teams still to be relegated, and 4 teams will be coming through from the Division 1, 4 regions. Now, let's talk about, I think you've heard a lot about the Zifa Unity Cup, eh? Is it back or is it not back? Let's find out, because the man is here. The Zifa Unity Cup.
That is a very important program that we are driving. We are, of course, in the process of working, engaging our sponsors to finalize the rollout of the cup. So, in terms of the framework, I think the competitions department has already worked on it, and the EXCO has already looked at it and approved it.
So you're confirming that
we
it
are
is
working
there.
on it. We are working on the program.
No confirmation yet.
We are confirming once we have had sign off from the sponsors. Once the sponsors have signed off, then we make an official announcement.
So what do we say? You're still waiting for that to confirm it. So as of today, nothing confirmed yet.
All the work has already gone in, CNN, in terms of the structure.
So can we say the Zifa Unity Cup is back in 2025?
We may have to look at the calendar to agree to that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so
So
it's
we
still
are waiting.
hanging in the
Yeah,
balance.
it's hanging in
We
the
can't say
balance.
anything for sure.
Yeah, let's wait for the confirmations from the sponsors because, I mean, it has to come in big if we are to reintroduce it. And we have already had conversation with the sponsors. So what we're just waiting for is the green light to say, okay, we're pressing play. Because all the modalities that are required to get it going have been put in place.
All right. Okay. I know that you still had more and more questions. So did I. I still have more. But listen, tempus fugit, like always. And I hope that Zifa President Moil Maguizi, NQ, will be able to come back for another show. Game plan, can you confirm?
Yeah, I can
you
come
will be
back,
able to come back because we got more questions.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to be back here.
Great. But
My favorite show.
Your favorite show. You heard that, eh? It's not only your favorite show, it's his favorite show as well. It just leaves me to thank you, NQ. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And wish you all the best as you move things forward at Zifa. And we hope to see you back soon on Game Plan.
Thank you, CNN.
Right. Okay. Well, it's many, many thanks to you always because you are the owners of the game. You make this show what it is. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing here on ZBC TV. From everybody from the ZBC TV sports crew behind the scenes, fronted by our producers, Beben Shinurai, Stuart Shoriwa, Tinashe Manyoni, and Gina Wanzura. Yes, we say, remember to take care of your loved ones and each other. I'm Charles, CNN Mabika. Until we meet again, it's bye-bye for now.